In the late 1940s, Soviet researchers sealed 5 political prisoners in an airtight chamber and exposed them to a gas stimulant designed to keep them awake for 15 days. The subjects were promised freedom if they stayed awake throughout the experiment. Initially, everything seemed normal. The subjects spoke to one another and shared their dark thoughts freely, something the researchers attributed to sleep deprivation. By the 5th day, paranoia began to set in. The subjects stopped talking to each other and started whispering into the microphones or staring at the mirrored windows. By the 9th day, one subject began screaming uncontrollably, his vocal cords tearing. The others didn't react. They simply tore pages from books, smeared them with feces, and pasted them over the glass to block observation. When the researchers finally entered the chamber on the 15th day, they were greeted with horror. One subject was dead, and the remaining 4 had mutilated themselves, ripping out chunks of their own flesh and eating them. They begged to be left in the chamber, refusing to sleep. One chilling phrase repeated by the survivors still haunts the researchers. "We are the madness that lurks within you." A man was walking home late at night through an empty street when he noticed someone in the distance. The figure appeared to be dancing. At first, he thought the person was drunk, swaying with exaggerated movements. But as the figure came closer, he realized it was something far more disturbing. The man was tall and unnaturally thin, wearing an ill-fitted suit. His face was frozen in a grotesque, exaggerated grin that stretched ear to ear. The smiling man walked erratically, taking sudden long strides or short, rapid steps, almost like he was mocking a puppet on strings. Despite his strange movements, he was closing the distance fast. Terrified, the man crossed the street. But the smiling man followed, mirroring his every move, that awful grin never fading. At one point, the figure stopped, tilted his head, and pointed at the man before sprinting toward him. The man fled, never looking back, and to this day, he wonders what would have happened if he had stayed. The smiling man's motives remain a chilling mystery. A couple woke one summer night to find a strange creature crouched at the foot of their bed. It was humanoid but unnaturally thin, with pale skin stretched tightly over its bones. Its sunken eyes reflected a malevolent intelligence, and its long, clawed fingers rested lightly on the bedspread. The creature let out a guttural growl and suddenly darted to the wife's side, slashing at her face. The husband tried to intervene, but it moved impossibly fast, escaping through their bedroom window into the night. The couple survived, but their lives were shattered. They began seeing the creature in their dreams, hearing whispers in the dark. Over the years, they discovered accounts of similar encounters dating back centuries. Victims always reported the same thing. The creature's appearance marked the beginning of a downward spiral into despair, paranoia, and often untimely death. No one knows what the rake truly is, but it feeds on fear and leaves devastation in its wake. When a group of adults started reminiscing on an online forum, they realized they all remembered a bizarre children's show from their youth called Candle Cove. The show was about a young girl named Janice, who sailed with a group of creepy puppet pirates. One of the characters, the skin taker, wore a cloak made of human skin and spoke in a horrifying, grinding voice. They recalled the unsettling episodes, one where the puppets screamed endlessly, and another where Janice was chased by a figure shrouded in darkness. Yet none of them could remember what channel it aired on. One participant asked their mother about Candle Cove. Her reply was bone-chilling. "You used to watch static on the TV for hours. There was no show." The revelation left them questioning whether they had shared a collective hallucination, or if something sinister had wormed its way into their childhoods. Candle Cove may have never existed, or perhaps it existed only to feed on their fears. It was a quiet night when a man heard a knock on his door. Opening it, he found 2 children standing on his porch. They looked normal at first, but something about them felt off. They were unnervingly still and wore outdated clothes. Then he noticed their eyes, completely black, void of any whites or pupils. The children asked in monotone voices, "Can we come in?" "We're lost." The man felt an overwhelming sense of dread and instinctively refused. But the children persisted, their polite requests turning into demands. The man slammed the door, and when he looked out the window, they were gone. Reports of black-eyed children have been circulating for years. They're always described as eerily calm, with hypnotic voices that compel people to invite them in. No one knows what happens to those who let them inside, but the stories suggest that doing so invites misfortune, or worse. They're not children. They're something far more sinister.